right now.
There we go. Got it. Okay. All right, so this is our third week of storying. You guys weren't with me when I was telling the other stories, but we're at Matthew chapter 8. This is right after the Sermon on the Mount. We have 2 weeks ago, I told the story of Jesus and the centurion. Centurion came to him with a servant. Well, the servant wasn't with him, but came to him with a problem. His servant was laying paralyzed at home. Jesus healed him at a distance without going to the house because of the centurion's faith that Jesus could do it even without going to the home. Then last week, we talked about the storm on the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus was asleep. The disciples are freaking out, thinking that they're going to die. The waves are coming over the boat. They wake him up. He kind of rebukes them for being men of little faith, and then calms the storm. And so what has just happened is the disciples have just looked at Jesus and said, who is this man that he controls even the wind and the waves? So that's where our story starts. And so we're looking at Matthew chapter 8, 28 to 34. And this is how it goes. So Jesus came to the other side of the sea with his disciples into the land of the, let me make sure I get this right, Gadarenes. And as they came to this country, there were two men who were demon-possessed that came to meet Jesus. And they said to Jesus, "What business do you have here, Son of God? Have you come to torment us before the time?" And not far off, there, bless you, not far off, there was a herd of pigs that was feeding, and so they looked to Jesus and said, "If you are going to cast us out, send us into the herd of pigs." Bless you again. and so Jesus says, "Go." And so the demons leave the men and are cast into the pigs. The pigs then go charging down the steep bank off of the cliff into the Sea of Galilee, where they all die in the water. The herdsmen who were watching the pigs see this and run away to the city and tell the people of the city everything that they've seen, including what has happened to the demonic men. And so the city comes out to see Jesus, and when they meet Jesus, they tell him, they ask him to leave the region. And that's the end of our story. And so, first, who are the characters in our story? There's lots of different groups here. But
Jesus.
Jesus. That's right. Get the easy one out of the way.
Two demon-possessed.
Right, demon-possessed men. Yep.
The pig herders.
Yep.
Pigs.
Herders, pigs.
Townspeople.
Townspeople. Yep, come right at the very end.
Presumably the disciples.
Right. They were on the boat with him.
Yeah.
So either they're on the boat or they're on the land. Well,
unless he told them to go out and grab food or something.
yeah, but it doesn't say specifically. So we'll assume that the disciples were there. Right. Let's see. I can't think of any other groups of people that were there.
Demons.
Demons. That's right. Yeah, that's a very important. Some important characters. So, what kind of took place? If you were going to kind of summarize it really quickly.
Jesus came to a place.
This place.
Yeah, the place with Gadarenes.
Yeah,
thing.
The country of the Gadarenes.
And he went up to these two guys. And the two guys said some things. And Jesus said, "Get out." And so the demons left the two guys, went into some pigs, who jumped off a cliff and died.
Right.
And everybody told the story.
Yeah. Now, what is Is there anything you find surprising or interesting about this story?
Well, I've heard it was one guy.
So, like, even just some of the small details are a little bit different. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. Now, this is an interesting story. Like, it's quite a bit different than the other stories that we run into the Gospels. It's not Jesus preaching. We have Jesus, and he says one word in the whole story, which is go. Which is kind of cool because in the stories earlier in the chapter, that's a big part of those stories. Like how we tie all of these stories together. He's telling the centurion to go and see that his servant is healed. He tells the disciples to get on the boat because they're going to go to the other side of the sea, away from the crowd. And so it's just interesting how all of these kind of weave together just with that one simple word. But is there anything in this story that maybe challenges us or challenges us to obey? Any perspectives that we see or truths that we see in this? Look at it a little bit differently than other stories. Anything to obey?
Something I found interesting is doing my own studies and stuff on this.
Just a dog tail.
Is the way that the demons kind of react to Jesus. And
Yeah.
how they're like,
Absolutely.
it's not time for you to torment us. As if they know there's a time for him to torment them. And
Yeah.
I don't think torment is the word for whatever Jesus does to people, or even demons.
Right.
But to them,
Right.
things can be torment, but are good
Yeah.
things.
Just an interesting perspective
Yeah.
on who Jesus is and what he does.
And an interesting way to see it, like, they know they've lost already.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they know, like, for now, we're good. We can do what we want.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. I think even just, like, as I process the story, thinking of the disciples being there and watching this, and so they've just seen Jesus calm the storm on the sea, and now they see Jesus casting out demons, and so much of the takeaway for those who were a part of these events, like a witness of these events, would be about who this Jesus guy was. He calms seas, he sends out demons, like just some extraordinary things taking place. But now, what about, are there situations where we could share this story, that this story could be useful? Are there people in our lives that would benefit from hearing this story?
I don't know. I feel like that's one of those things that you'll kind of notice at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's hard to think of right now, but like, I can imagine that there will be instances where this will be a story that will come to mind.
Right.
So it should be one that I remember. So that I won't be sitting there thinking, man, this is maybe an opportunity to do something I can't remember.
Right. Well, it is, important to be able to remember the story so you can share them. Any thoughts, Kyler?
I mean, it's a good example of like how Jesus displayed his own power.
Yeah.
In a very vivid way. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, you can tell the story to someone else if you're trying to explain that.
Yeah, like who Jesus was.
Right. What he did.
Yeah. And I think even it's easy to be scared in situations. Part of the story is that, like, the people of the city wouldn't even walk where the demon-possessed men lived because they were so violent. And so obviously there was a fear that was involved in the story. And here's Jesus, who's just like, his power completely overcomes that. Even to the point where the people in the city were scared of him. Like, who is this guy? What's he doing? But yeah, just an interesting. It's easy for life there to be things that we don't really understand. We don't know how they'll work out or what. Maybe even wonder, well, how could God work in this situation? And this is, just an interesting, simple example of God doing something interesting, doing something different, where he's not even talking that much. Here's Jesus, and he just says, go, and the demons listen. So, well, that's our story. Thanks for listening.